talked to quite a few teachers around this identity level, and it seems like people can have a structure in their body which is sort of holding together an identity structure. I'm this kind of person. I'm a person who does this. And I've heard of people say, hey, I'm a CEO, I stand this way, or military guys, this is just how, this is part of me. And it seems like that could really, really undermine any kind of change work, right? When it's like, if it's challenging that the structure of someone's identity is held in the body, even if you're able to demonstrate a health benefit or a comfort benefit, or, hey, you're just stronger this way, you're just more relaxed this way, you're happy this way. They're like, yeah, but it's not me.
Yeah.
Now, how do you work with that? I think this is a sort of a question quite a lot of teachers I've spoken to have bumped into in one way or another.
Well, recently, and through the guidance of Joanne Avison, who's one of my teachers, and she's one of the primary teachers in the bio-tensegrity field, she mentioned something that helped me connect some dots that have kind of been a through line for me for about 20 years about structure, form, and function, right? Or structure and form, and then function. And that was this kind of whole idea about matter and pattern. So we could actually look at pattern as the force that moves through our matter or our structure, our form, and that the two are always informing one another. So the forming of us being informed by the forces that we are negotiating at all times. So this really works for me in somatic groundwork because, I'm just like such a nerd about patterns and all kinds of levels and layers of patterns. And I draw, geodesic mandalas and icosahedrons, and I have for a long time because I just learned so much from them. But it's this pattern then that we can start to really get intimate with when we're practicing somatic groundwork, because again, like you mentioned, we don't have to engage so much of the habit, the muscular armoring when we're on the floor. So we can actually pay attention to some of the details in the pattern. And as we change those patterns, it changes our form and it changes our structure, it changes our underlying being. And we see that, we experience life differently. It's subtle, it's like small, effective, safe kinds of changes that we can make.
Well, I enjoy it, if nothing else, run around the floor, so I'll be doing more. So I think I've just got one more left of the free ones that you gave away online, and I might have to pay for some stuff here. I'm looking at your website. You've got big courses and Somatic Groundwork, Immersion. It looks good. And look at that, Magdalena Weinstein. She's been on the show a few times, another friend of ours. So she's bringing in trauma work, is she, to the work?
So yeah, I'm really excited. At the end of the month, we're doing a Somatic Groundwork Immersion. This was going to be a live event until COVID-19. And instead of canceling this live event that was going to be in Boise, Idaho, where I live in the USA, decided to pivot and bring it online because the work's too important and feels really important now. And so when I brought it online, I decided to add another guest teacher. And I asked Magdalena if she would come in and deepen our conversation of nervous system harmony. Like I mentioned, it's such an important part of somatic groundwork anyway, and I'm very keen on somatic groundwork being a trauma-informed or trauma-sensitive practice. So yeah, I'm just really excited that she's gonna come. And then I also have Chris Clancy of Embodied Bio-tensegrity coming to introduce bio-tensegrity, really the complex system science that describes us, our biology, our living motion. This is going to be a great week.
Where are the dudes? There's like 4 female teachers. I wouldn't get away with that. If I did a course with 4 male teachers, America would rip me a new asshole. Like there's 4 female teachers by the looks of things. I don't know. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but that does looks like there's a lack of dudes there for me. I want to see a guy on there. So
great. Yeah, I'm calling it in always. I tend to draw a lot of women to my work. I definitely work with men as well, and they're in the work, but it's
I think it's a reason for that. Because I've done your classes, I don't find them like unfriendly to men or anything like. Sometimes there's a vibe, and you go as a man, I'm like, this isn't good. I didn't get that from you, so I don't, in any way blame you for that. But I'm wondering, is floor work somehow more threatening to guys? like is there?
Well, actually, in my somatic, so I have a membership program too called Somatic Groundwork Virtual Classroom, and it's a monthly subscription so people can practice. And there's, I would say equal men and women in that. But in terms of my bigger programs for movement teachers, like I have a year-long program called Intelligent Motion Training. And then with the immersion, I find in these kind of longer, more intensive offerings that I have, I really draw women.
It's interesting, the Embodiment Conference, I asked for some stats off the Facebook ads people that are helping us out. And they've got some, reasonable stats because of the number crunching they do. And they said it's 95% women who had signed up for the Embodiment Conference so far. And have we given you an invite to that, by the way? You're super welcome if we haven't given you an official invite yet.
In terms of speaking at it, or?
Yeah, speaking at it, yeah. Okay, I want to find out a bit more about you. So did you say you're in one of the square states?
I'm in the square states.
The middle ones, in the middle, the square ones in the middle.
Idaho is not quite square,
Okay.
and it's a little bit more like, so if you were to be in the Rocky Mountains, it's a little bit west of the Rocky Mountains, but it's not quite northwest.
Okay, so it's not, there's the corn and then the mountains, and it's the other side of that. So we're not yet.
Yeah, most of Idaho is really heavy duty wilderness, and it touches up into Canada.
Oh, wow. Okay, so is that where you grew up? Is that where you're from?
I have grown up between actually one of the square states, Colorado, that's why I laughed, and Montana. And so Montana is directly north. Montana, Idaho.
Montana's meant to be pretty. Is Idaho like that? Like, I imagine
Montana's
green and sort of kind of nice stuff. Okay, so you're a bit out of the normal somatic hubs, right? Like Boulder, San Francisco, New York. Like, you're a little bit away from those kind of hubs of this work.
I am now. I've just moved to Boise, so been here 3 years, and before that I spent the 10 years previous in the Denver Boulder area, and then I went to school in that area too. Like all of my childhood schooling was in that Denver Boulder area.
Why do you do this? Like, I don't know you, so I want to find out something about you, the person. I know we could geek out on the work for a long time, I'm sure, but why do you do this? What is it that has hooked you?
Why do I do what I do, like in movement? Why
is this your thing? I mean, it's not the money, let's face it, right? Like what is it that's like made this your life? Because this is a life's work. You've clearly studied with a lot of people and, put a lot into it. So how come?
It's my form of activism, and it's the way that I know that I can serve the greater good, is to help people return home into a body that feels safe and that they feel like they can befriend and that they can relate with and relate from. Because to me, this seems like one of the core elements of a better humanity overall.
I do believe that, and I'm with you on that. This idea of it's an activism of a kind, you're helping people come home to the body and the safety and the wisdom therein. Yeah. Why this though? Why particularly this embodied work? Because there's lots and lots of ways we could contribute. You're obviously smart. You could have done a job in an NGO. There's lots of other ways we can contribute.
I'm an artist. I'm a creative person. I'm a movement person, and I'm somebody that's really fascinated by relationships. So I suppose all of those things came together in a unique way. I had some early experiences. Also, my mom had a significant injury. I had a significant injury. I had a very significant childhood developmental trauma that came through repressed memory when I was in my late 20s. So there are these very challenging times that were deeply rooted in my body experience, more than in my mind. And they were actually the things that were kind of revving in the engine all along that were keeping me really unwell and kind of in a dis-ease state. And when I started recognizing that, and that I could change that, or that didn't have to be kind of the possibility of my experience, I wanted to help others who might be feeling the same way. So that's also there.
It's interesting on the show, I've interviewed like 250 people or something on the show now, and you start to kind of hear the patterns, and like most of us, and I say us because I'm one of the group of people I'm interviewing, some of it's just accident, like your mum run a dance studio, it's just an accident fate, Some of it is like our own personal neurosis. We have some sort of wounding, some sort of damage, like for me, it was a very bad experience in school and education and just going, shit, like that's education. There has to be a better way, And then others, it's also this usually this third thread of sort of some sense of like, hey, I could really contribute this way. Like seems to be a human calling. So I was kind of thinking out loud here how those three fit together. There is usually some sort of a slightly neurotic tendency with a healing tendency on the other side of that, you know. But it's, yeah, I got curious about seeing the patterns of interviewing many people.
I think the piece of being an artist is a big part of it for me. And I had to, at some point, first marriage, I'm divorced. I have 2 kids that are young elementary school. And up to that point, my movement world had largely been in art and performance and kind of, you know, choreographic creativity and all that kind of stuff. And I remember this day of going, okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to make a living in movement. And I don't really think for me, it's going to be in performance to raise these kids. Like some people might be able to stick that out and are that good or are that clear about it. I'm like, oh, what do I need to do? And I'm in the Denver Boulder area at that time. I thought, okay, is it Naropa? Is it PT school? Is it occupational therapy school? Is it dance therapy? Do I get them? Oh, where do I go? What do I do? Right. So, you know, at every step of the way, it's been a question of how do I keep doing movement? Because that's the thing that just runs through me. It downloads, it uploads all the time, you know.
Running a business for many of us is like that, isn't it? Almost like, how do I just keep doing this? You know, like, hey, I love this. How do I keep doing it? Where's the business in this? You know, that's like an afterthought, I think, for many of us. None of us got into this as entrepreneurs, you know, like none of us were like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. This is a good opportunity, right? That wasn't really the thinking. And it's, you make some distinctions there. Like, I wonder if some people are more performers. Like, I quite like being on a stage, giving a speech, you know, like a TED Talk type thing. And so, you know, some of the Instagram people are more like performing that way. You know, they like the visual performers, and other people are more artists. It's more about just the creation, the exploration. I definitely have that side of me, you know, constantly learning, constantly creating. Some of us are more teachers naturally. That's probably my strongest urge, is to teach, actually. Like, if I wasn't teaching embodiment, I'd be teaching pottery or creative writing or something else, you know, like my grandmother taught driving a car. It seems like there's these sort of mixtures of callings in embodiment teachers. I feel blessed that I've got a bit more of the businessman side than most people in this field, you know. Not much, but even having 10% of it is a sort of lucky thing. And it seems like you've taken that side of it fairly seriously as well.
When I got into personal training, I really started learning the business, and I'm really grateful for, you know, personal training as a field to help me learn the business of selling your service and how to do that in an authentic way. So that's, yeah, one of the big skills that emerged for me during that time. And then, you know, I went on to get a master's in exercise science. It was actually a scholarship that I was gifted. And once that occurred, I realized, okay, like I now have been given a lot of opportunity. I've been offered, I've just been offered opportunity, and I've also learned a lot of skills. So what am I going to do with this? And how am I going to really make this work? Because now I've got a lot of grit in the game. And I have a lot of people who have helped me get here. And that's when I started learning the business model of bringing the work online, because I wanted to work with a broader range of people. And that is a whole other thing, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah. Let's come back to this. There's something I want to ask you first, actually, which is, often you talk about the sort of 2 main sides of your education. So there's the somatic side, and then there's the sort of PT side, education, you know, movement science, that kind of side. It's often a bit looked down on in the somatic territory, you know, like, oh, that's just exercise, that's just physical. But as you say, it strikes me there's some real gifts in there, like running a business seriously. Any PT would just regard that as like, well, you have to, you know. What other sort of gifts have you brought from that side of things?
I would say principles of program design, principles of adaptation and specificity, movement sequencing, how to create adaptation, how to really move somebody from where they are now and help them within a very specific period of time, whether that be 6 weeks or whether that be 3 months, move to the next level, wherever it is that they want to go. As a dancer, I can remember that, you know, I mean, part of continuing to, especially as become a professional dancer, you're just looking at perfecting your technique in any way that you can. 1, so that you don't get injured, and 2, so that the aesthetic or the expression that's within you can be translated more readily through this instrument. And being stuck, anyhow, for years being stuck in some like particular technical dimensions. Went over to personal training and literally within 6 weeks, changed my performance metrics in ways that I was never given in dance science.
And they think in terms of like metrics and improvement and like 20% stronger, and like it's a different way of thinking. I can track it on various models, I know, like spiral dynamics and stuff, but it's that way of thinking is sometimes a bit missing, isn't it, from the somatic world? You know, like if you say, well, who's more embodied, person X or person Y? People would probably laugh and say, oh, well, you can't measure that and it doesn't matter, and it's very, they give some hippie bullshit basically. But actually there is such a thing as being more or less embodied, and you could in fact attempt to measure that in different ways. So that it seems to be the exercise science side of things is big on measurement and improvement, and while that can be taken too far, and there's some things that can't be measured, of course, there's something in that, right?
I mean, I'm all about the polarities of life, Mark. So like one of the polarities we're talking about right now is a process-oriented way of being in movement practice, or a goal-oriented way of being in movement practice. And for me, it's like, wouldn't we like to have the choice? And if I'm actually helping somebody, they come to me and they want to go through some kind of change process. For me, I have a lot more confidence and I have a bigger toolbox when I actually can pull from both sides of this movement education spectrum. I can work from the inside out, and I can also work from assessment and analysis from the outside in. And the two together are brilliant.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to move. It's like process orientation is great, isn't it? Because you can just be in the process and not trying to strive for anything, and allowing space for things to arrive creatively, spontaneously. But you can get lost in that. And a goal orientation is great for going somewhere, achieving something, moving towards a target, you know, actually making some progress. But it can get a little bit graspy. You can miss the journey for the destination. You know, like sometimes I'm in the gym and I see people and they're just trying to lift a heavier weight, and I'm thinking, you're not even enjoying that. You know, they've missed the process. So yeah, being able to move between those two certainly makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's even the language of attention and intention, right? Those might be kind of a better language structure to play with, but I think that it has the same tension. Attention and intention has the same tension. Wow, there's a little rhyme right there. But, you know, this place of being in the moment as it's arising and kind of going with it and allowing for those things to unfold, or saying, hey, I'm going to direct my conscious intention and I'm going to choose this.
Nice.
Needed. Yeah.